Welcome, friends and fiends, to the Cryptique Podcast. My name's Kenny, and I'm here with my co-host, Godden. Together, we're here to watch and review every horrific, often hilarious episode of the legendary HBO anthology series, Tales from the Crypt. And here we are, ready to watch and review Season 2, Episode 9, The Four-Sided Triangle. It came out May 29th, 1990, and it comes to us from Shock Suspense Stories. Godden, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's dive into the episode. But before we do, I have to give this disclaimer, okay? We're just here because we love the show. We want a place to express our thoughts and opinions and to hopefully build a community out of it. We're not here to pretend that we're experts or that we did a ton of research before the show or that we're going to get all of our facts right. So if we miss something or we don't quite nail what you think to be the true point of the episode, feel free to comment. You know, we'll be happy to share some of those comments on the podcast as well. So don't be scared. Reach on out. Let us know what's going on. Also, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen this episode yet, make sure to get out there and watch it because we are going to dive into some heavy spoilers. Now, we usually save this for the end, but recently I've been trying to do it in the beginning because I've seen other podcasts do it in the beginning. So we're going to do it that way. My name's Kenny, and if you're interested in hearing me talk more, I have other socials. Too Bad About Kenny. That's with the number 2 as well as TOO Bad About Kenny. I have a Twitch channel where I stream games. Right now I'm going through the Final Fantasy games. I've also got a second YouTube channel where I review books and movies and whatnot. Godden, where can they find you?
They can find me streaming against him on Twitch, UAPP06. I will plan on playing Silent Hill F when that comes out, and other fun random games, horror games. And they can also follow us at our Twitter, at Cryptikers, where we can also just directly interact with anyone, or, you know, if you guys want to keep up updates with our latest episodes or any kind of updates.
God, and I'm looking forward to you finally getting back into streaming because you know how a lot of streamers, like their tag is like chill stream kind of vibes, right? God, I think you are like the epitome of chill stream. Like your games, no matter how, because you play the horror games, but you also play chill games. It doesn't matter what you're playing. Your vibe's always just so relaxed and just mellow. So I do enjoy watching your streams and just kind of seeing you meander through the game without getting too like upset. Or, you know, because sometimes I'll fly off the handle on my streams. But Godden always takes just such a careful, you know, very, very mellow approach to the game. So I am looking forward to you getting back to your streams because I like your vibe.
Oh, thank you, Kenny.
All right. So anyway, let's get on to the episode, shall we? This is Four-Sided Triangle. And here is the ancient text inked in blood on human flesh. On the back of the DVD box set. Where is it? There's so many like tabs to open up on this thing. I gotta find it. Here it is. Four-Sided Triangle. The Last Straw. A seemingly mad woman held captive on a farm insists that the scarecrow is alive. That's that.
That's better than the previous ones, I feel like.
Yeah, right.
More,
I know.
You know.
I know these, like, I think like they have like a 1-sentence max. At most you can use like maybe a comma. They're very, very short. So I actually have another description that I've come up with here. So let me go ahead and read this a little more in depth. A young runaway, Mary Jo, is blackmailed into working on a remote farm by an abusive couple, Luisa and George. While Luisa uses physical violence to keep Mary Jo in line to do her bidding, George has other more sinister motives. After suffering a blow to the head, Mary Jo insists that the scarecrow in the cornfield is a real man and claims it to be her true love. Will this mysterious scarecrow help to free Mary Jo from her captors? Or is she really just delusional?
That wasn't as bad as your previous ones where they gave a little too much detail. This was more like, yeah, it's kind of like right there.
Yeah. I have been like how much, like, do I give away the whole story on my little synopsis or do I try to hold some back? So I'm definitely skating that line. definitely trying to navigate that whole.
Yeah.
We're still new. We're still, we're still figuring things out. And that's where your comments come in, by the way. You right there listening at home. If you have a segment or something that you really enjoy that we do, let us know. If there's a part of our podcast that you just don't like, let us know. Maybe we can move things around or take things out. If there's something else you want us to start doing, let us know. So all of that stuff. I'm definitely excited about growing and improving. So, and I know Godden is too, by the way. I'm a blabbermouth in case you haven't noticed. I go on and on. So yeah, I don't mind saying more, or if I need to say less. So you just let me know. So, Godden, here we are. Okay, that was a synopsis of the episode. We're about to go deep dive into it. But before we do, I'm telling you, everybody here wants to know, Godden, what are your general thoughts on this episode?
The acting is pretty good. I do like all the acting here. Like, it does feel kind of natural with the chemistry. It's like it's fun to watch that. But yeah, that voyeurism, that whole like 2-minute like scene with the whole chicken coop. Yeah, I was like, yeah, it's getting more intense and intense. I'm like, why is this like this? And because it's the same director for Lover Come Back to Me.
Yeah,
it's like that extreme, like perverse, sense of like nature to like show about how people are lusty. It's just like, I don't know. It's definitely a better episode than Lover Come Back to Me. But there's a common theme with this director.
Yeah, you brought that up before we started the podcast, and I'm so glad you brought it up again. This episode is the same director as Lover Come Back to Me, which I did not like. Lover Come Back to Me. I did not. I think you liked it a little bit more than I did, but I did not like that episode. It relied way too heavy on the whole lustful sex rather than the horror and the gore, and plus it was just, I didn't like it. I didn't like the episode. This one I think is a little bit better, but I think it did have interesting characters. I like the situation was interesting to me. Also, like, she's kind of held captive. We'll get to more like why she's there when we get into the episode, but she's stuck there, right? The main character is stuck there, and she's kind of forced to do the bidding of all these, of these crazy couple. And yeah, there's some really uncomfortable voyeurism in this episode, and it was definitely gross. It definitely felt gross watching this episode. One thing I will say before we get into this, the way the episode was gearing up, it felt like it was going to Supernatural. And I was kind of gearing up, getting myself ready for it, because Supernatural is one of those things to me where I don't mind it in a movie as long as it's consistent and the rules that you make up make sense, right? So I felt like they were kind of pushing that boundary, kind of going that direction. So I was gearing myself up for it, and then it never happened. So that was a little underwhelmed. That's what I'm trying to say. I was a little underwhelmed by the finale. So here we go. Let's get into it. So starting off with the Crypt Keeper intro, you see like these flower petals being thrown on the ground, and you hear the Crypt Keeper say, "She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. She loves me not." And that's the last petal. And he goes, "Blech. What do flowers know about love anyway?" And that surprised me. I thought, you figure he would be upset about being loved, right? Doesn't that make sense from the Crypt Keeper? He's just so macabre that I thought the Crypt Keeper would be upset that the last petal said, "She loves me."
She loves me not.
Right.
Oh, she loves me.
He doesn't seem to be a very romantic kind of a guy. That's what I'm trying to get at. So anyway, he goes on to introduce the story. He says, "Tonight's story is full of love and lurid lust in the dust, sure to arouse the sickies amongst you to some heavy breathing." He calls this tale a four-sided triangle. So that brings us to the opening panel, which, of course, once again, we have those three layers. In the foreground, we have a woman, a beautiful woman, by the way, dressed in some scanty little clothing, with her arms up around what looks like a man in a clown mask. And then she's in a cornfield. And then behind that is, like a farmer and a woman, and she's holding the pitchfork. And then behind that is the barn with a very ominous opening to the barn. You cannot see into the barn. It's too dark. And that makes sense because if you look at the moon above even that, the moon is shining from behind the barn, so the light would not be pouring into the barn. So from this perspective, you really shouldn't be able to see into the barn. So that makes a lot of sense. And I wish I can remember the name of that painting that I think this is copied from. Because look at the farmer and the wife.
Yeah,
she's holding the pitchfork.
I was gonna bring that up because I'm like, what is that painting?
Yeah, that's a famous painting.
Instantly, it is. Yeah.
They also used that painting in, I think, Son-in-Law, that Pauly Shore movie. They used the similar style with the two farmers standing together, and then Pauly Shore being there looking like an idiot.
It's called Grantwood American Gothic.
Oh, it's even got Gothic in the title. Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, American Gothic is the main title.
Okay.
Also, in the original painting, it's the husband that's holding.
Oh, the husband's holding the pitchfork.
And they were actually kind of based off these, like just actually looking at the painting, like that's what they look like. He has the circle glasses and everything.
Oh, they copied it. It was on point, I guess. I just recognized the pose. I didn't recognize any more specifics. How many prongs does the pitchfork have in the original, in the actual painting?
It's the same.
It's the same. It's three. It's three. Okay, because I'm used to seeing pitchforks with like 4 prongs.
4. Yeah.
This one has 3. It's like a trident. It almost looks like a trident, or like a devil's trident. You know how it has the 3? I think it does.
Yeah, you're right.
I might be making things up, everybody. Don't quote me on this. So we open up in the first scene of this episode on some establishing shots of a very secluded, desolate farm. And there's some right away. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this. I did not mention this yet. And I wanted to make sure to mention it. I'm surprised I forgot. When we go to the crypt keeper doing the petals, she loves me not. Immediately, first thing right off the bat, I was like, oh, another love story? Because haven't we had so many love stories by now? It feels like, probably except for 1 or 2 episodes, it feels like every single episode so far this season has been a love story, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's the easiest thing to, I guess, sin about with lust, and I don't know. Yeah, I think there's more murders happening, with affairs. But you're right, it's been consistent with all these random people falling for weird kind of characters.
Yeah, there's been so many love stories. And I don't mind a love story here or there, but it feels so redundant. So right away, right off the bat, I'm like, ugh, another love story. It's just so annoying. But I bring that up because when we open up on this farm and we have that twangy music going on, it's real goofy. And then it goes into the house and you see Luisa, one of the women, or the wife of the couple who own the farm. She's hobbling down the stairs. She's got like a leg brace on, and just the way she's dressed, her facial expressions was so slapstick to me that the opening shot of this episode won me over. I was like, okay, we'll see where this goes. I like this character so far. I was thinking maybe I can kind of push through the love story part of it and just kind of enjoy the character. So already it's starting to win me over. This Luisa character is absolutely funny already. Yeah. So she goes downstairs and she notices that the coffee's not made. So she slaps the coffee maker right off the table. She runs into the room and starts beating with her cane. This poor woman, this poor girl, starts beating with her and just yells at her for not making the coffee and to go get some eggs. And this woman that she's beating on is Mary Jo. And this is the one that's being held captive. So Mary Jo gets dressed and runs outside to go get the eggs. And on her way, she walks by George, who's the husband. And this George character is the one who kind of has, he's becoming increasingly obsessed with Mary Jo. And he's basically, just falling in lust for her. But before you learn that about him, you see him and he's kind of working on a car and he's got just a doofy, goofy looking face on him. The way he's dressed, he just looks so dopey redneck is the best way I can explain him. Right away, he gave me some serious Stephen King vibes from, have you seen the Creep Show movie?
No, I have not, but I also was getting the Stephen King kind of atmosphere as well.
Yeah. A little bit, yeah. So in Creep Show, one of the short stories is The Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill. And the main character is Jody Verrill. It's played by Stephen King. And he also is some dopey redneck guy who's all shucks kind of a guy. And he's just so doofy. And so right away, I got those vibes. I'm like, oh, okay. So again, I'm really enjoying these characters and I'm looking forward to seeing their, all kinds of craziness ensue from these guys. So the episode up to this point is definitely winning me over. But when she goes in, he's watching her, by the way, the whole way she's going in. He's watching her go into the barn to go collect the eggs. And for some reason, while she's in there, well, actually not for some reason, I know why. The director said, do this because we need some shots. She goes inside, she takes off her sweater, and she's wearing like a really revealing crop top. And she starts like hunting around for eggs, like leaning over seductively and like reaching up, and like just all kinds of shots of her body and her butt and her cleavage and all this kind of stuff. And then from the outside, though, is, I almost call him Jody Verrill, is George. Outside is George, and he's like watching her from a little hole on the outside of the barn. And the shots of him watching are so creepy and gross. The expression on his face is just like, kind of an expression. His eyes like glued to the people. You can see shots from outside from his perspective of him actually watching. And then you can, the haunting ones are the ones from inside the barn where you see his eye looking through the hole. And it's really gross. And they didn't show anything or suggest it, but I couldn't help but imagine that he was also out there pleasuring himself, which was really gross to me. So that's definitely an image, even though they didn't show it or suggest it in the episode. It's seared in my mind. There it is. It's going to live rent free for a while.
So yeah, I agree with that, Kenny, because that moment where the whole voyeurism and he's about a couple feet away from the people and he just slowly like pretty much puts his whole body and his face onto like the wood plank. Like, yeah, I can totally see that he's definitely pleasuring himself or something, because it's getting more and more descriptive of how he's like moaning and just like heavy breathing because he's just getting into it. But I did like the shot because it reminded me of Jeepers Creepers in a way, the poster for either 1 or 2, where it kind of zoomed into his eye right before he gets caught because she like turns around. But I did like that shot because that's it. I don't know why it just reminded me of Jeepers Creepers. It's the first thing I thought of.
Oh yeah,
I'm just his eye and the hole.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Jeepers Creepers. This episode, it does have a little bit of Jeepers Creepers vibes to it, doesn't it? Because it's kind of a scarecrow character that it kind of centers around. And wasn't Jeepers Creepers also kind of like a scarecrow? Wasn't there some shots of him being a scarecrow in some point in the movie?
Yeah, I think I remember him just like acting like that, just and then attack someone or something in the cornfields. I do remember something vaguely.
But I'm also glad that you mentioned when he's watching her, it's not just his eye that's at the people. You're right. His whole body is like thrust against the wall. Like he's like he's like not just watching, he's like aggressively watching.
He's like mesmerized.
Yeah, it's really gross. He really got into that, the actor.
Yeah, and you feel disgusted. Like, yeah, he kind of sold it. Like, yeah, he is being a full-on creep, and so yeah, his role.
Yeah, it was gross. It was definitely gross. So she finishes collecting the eggs, okay, and then she's on her way back to the house, and George is sitting, by the car at this point, and he says, basically, now go milk the cow. And she says, oh, but I had to get these eggs, and he insists, no, go milk the cow. And in this short instance, she looks at a necklace he's wearing that has a key on it. So she looks at the key, okay, and then she looks over, and then it shows the car and the ignition, okay? So, okay, that's obviously the key to the car. Then, just in case you didn't get it, the camera zooms in to the ignition of the car. I felt like that was a definitely, if there could be like 3 seconds trimmed out of this episode, I think that should be the moment. Because that's the point where I felt like the director thought I was stupid. It shows the key, and then it shows the car, and then it zooms into the ignition. Like I couldn't put those things together myself. I had to I just felt insulted is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, that's actually funny. The way I perceived that was maybe it's like through her perspective, because at one point or another she was called like a simpleton or like a fool, and she kind of comes off as somewhat of a simpleton. So I think that's like her like processing. Oh, that key. Oh, there's a car. Oh, it goes there, and she's like, oh, I could leave this like forsaken place if maybe, because like, but when she notices that, because at that point he says, go do the milk, and then she goes and does it because maybe she's like, oh, maybe I can get the, like, when she gets the car going, maybe she can like steal it and get out. Maybe that's like her whole plan. When zoomed into the ignition and all that and the key. So get her out. Get
I
her
like
out.
that. Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like seeing it that way. Okay, that makes more sense to me. It's from her perspective, and she's just that dodo brained where she's like, car, oh, ignition. Like it's her.
Yeah.
That's her thought process going through it. I got you. I see that. So she goes to milk the cow, and she's in there, and she's squirting the milk into the bucket. And have you ever milked a cow, by the way?
I have not.
I have.
It'd be fun though.
Yeah,
is it fun?
This episode, like this part of the episode, actually brought me back to that moment when I was a kid milking a cow.
Fun. That's so fun.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I've milked a cow before. So she's milking the cow, and then he comes into the barn, and again, very creepily, slowly, he walks through the door, staring at her, kind of approaching her, trying to sneak up on her, but then he accidentally kicks something on the ground, and that gets her attention, and she turns around, and he continues to walk towards her though and tries to advance onto her, and she rejects him and kind of pushes him away, and she even takes the milk and throws it on him. And at this point he gets aggressive. He starts to force himself onto her. She kind of fights away, and he says, I'm going to call the police and tell them about how I picked you up outside the Stop and Go where the owner was yelling about being robbed. So this is the moment where you learn about the blackmail and how she's being kept there against her will. Basically, you can kind of piece it together. She was probably a runaway, and maybe she was, robbing stores to kind of make a living. And, before the owner can get her after being robbed, he must have come to her rescue, I think is what happened, and brought her back. And so now this is something that they can hold over her head, saying, hey, if you get out of line, we'll call the police and you'll go to jail for robbing that store. So this is where you kind of get all that, the lore dump, I guess is what you'd call it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. But do you think he was maybe like eyeing her the first stop at the gas station?
Oh, absolutely.
And then, like,
yeah, this guy has probably had a crush on her since he first laid eyes on her.
Yeah.
Oh man, this guy is a creep. He said one more thing on this that I thought was creepy. As he's coming up to her in the barn, he says, you come to this farm, girl, you don't get to leave. Not ever. So I thought that was a really creepy line that he threw that in right after, talking about the robbery. So that was really creepy. So she keeps fighting him, and he grabs a bottle and basically, hits her over the head with the bottle, and it breaks. And this knocks her out, which I always hated this in movies. Like we've all broken a bottle before. It's not enough force to knock somebody unconscious. Let's be reasonable here. I wish she had grabbed like a bat or something else. Not because I want to see her get hit by a bat, just because it's more believable, right? It's more believable than a bottle over the head would knock her unconscious, but that's what it does. He hits her over the head and knocks her unconscious. Then when she's laying there, he kneels beside her and grabs onto her, and you're thinking, oh crap, right? What's he up to?
Yeah. I had that thought too. I was worried. I was like, oh man, like this can go in so many directions right now.
Yeah.
Like he can take full advantage. Like, I don't like this.
That's exactly where I thought it was going.
Yeah.
But then Luisa comes out. And starts yelling for Mary Jo. And that startles George. And he quickly kind of tries to hide her. And he hides her in the most just absolute buffoon way. He just like sprinkles some hay on top of her, hoping that would, hide the body.
I thought it was pretty good. The last frame. It looked pretty covered up for me.
Yeah. It was covered up enough. So basically Luisa to the rescue, right? Even though she's, in the first scene of the episode, she's the one beating on her. But then suddenly now you're like, oh yeah, good, Luisa's here. She's here to save. I like this in shows and movies where you have these kind of ambiguous characters, good versus bad. Luisa is clearly in on it. Luisa is clearly manipulating and abusive and, blackmailing Mary Jo to stay there to do her bidding, right? She's clearly a bad character. But in this situation, it's like, oh, thank God Luisa's here, right? So I like that. I really, really like that dynamic when that kind of stuff happens in shows. So whenever George is involved, right, Luisa is kind of like the good guy, because Luisa at least prevents George from going through with his, sexual assault or whatever he's going to be doing. So I like that. I like that a lot. So Luisa makes it to the barn, and George is like trying to prevent her from coming in. Like, no, there's nothing in here. I was just milking the cow. And then she's like, wait a minute, you don't milk the cow. Mary Jo milks the cow. And then they go in together. And when they get to where Mary Jo was, George is relieved to see that she's gone, or not relieved, I guess, but maybe surprised to see that she's gone. But at least Luisa won't see that, he knocked her out is kind of, what's going on there. From there, they go outside and they see that there's like blood stains or blood drips that are going to the cornfield. So they follow into the cornfield, and there's a funny moment here where because Luisa, right, has that leg brace and she has a cane. She has a hard time walking. So about 2 or 3 steps into the cornfield, she says, carry me or pick me up or something like that. And he squats down. She jumps on his back and they stand up together, and then they go walking into the cornfield. The way that happened so casually tells me that this must be like how they normally get around. She must always be on his back, just kind of being traipsed around the farm. It was so funny to me. It was just so bizarre that such an odd request was adhered to so simply. It gave me the impression that this is probably how she just normally gets around. And actually, I laughed out loud in that part. It was so funny to me. That moment right there is my shriek of the week. My shriek of the week. Funny. Carry me! And then he just squats right away, and she jumps on his back, and off they go.
That was a fun moment. I agree.
So from there, we get Mary Jo's perspective, and she's, into the cornfield, and she's stumbling, and she finally falls down. But right above her is a scarecrow with a clown mask on. And also, I got to tell you, I just watched last weekend Clown in a Cornfield. Did you watch that yet?
What is that? No.
It's a new horror flick. It's pretty good, actually. I liked it. But you're right, there's clown in the cornfield. So right away I was like, oh, here we go, Clown in a Cornfield all over again. So because the scarecrow had a clown mask on. And from Mary Jo's perspective, she looks up and she sees the scarecrow actually look down at her, and the scarecrow reaches its arm out as if to grab her. And at that point is caught up to by Luisa and George, and they of course don't see anything. And she insists that the scarecrow is, my man. She says, "Where's my man? My man. I want him to make love to me." So she's already in love with this scarecrow character. And this is where I thought the episode was getting more interesting, because I was like, okay, so is she delusional, or is this scarecrow really like some sort of supernatural entity? And I really thought they were going to play with the idea of pushing that delusion and then have it become a real kind of a ghostly presence. So that's kind of where I started to prepare myself. Okay, here we go. We're doing something supernatural. So already like this at this point in the episode, that's where my mind is going. So it doesn't go that way. Spoiler alert, but that's just kind of where my mind was, right? My mindset was definitely going that way.
Kind of in line with you, where it could be supernatural. But at one point or another, when I saw the clown initially, I don't know why, but I just immediately thought of the alien killer clowns. I forget, is it from Mars?
Oh yeah, killer clowns from outer space.
Outer space. That's what I thought of it initially, and I was like, no, I feel like they don't do aliens, in Tales from the Crypt. They don't do anything like that. It's usually like a human conflict.
Oh, that's a good point too. I don't think there's aliens in any of the Tales from the Crypt episodes. There's a lot of clowns in cinema and in film and in TV shows, right? There's the killer clowns from outer space, like you mentioned, Clown in a Cornfield, which I just watched. There's Pennywise. There's Art the Clown, who's super popular right now in the Terrifier series. There's clowns out there, absolutely. Even in Halloween, the original Halloween, Michael Myers used the clown mask. So clowns are definitely very, very present in especially horror. So the fact that they put a clown mask on this scarecrow here doesn't surprise me. It kind of seems par for the course at this point. Also, I listen to a little bit of Slipknot, not a lot though, and I know that they wear their masks, and I know one of the characters, one of the band members, also wears a clown mask, and this looked similar to that. So I don't know if it's the same mask or it just happens to look kind of similar, but wouldn't that be funny if we found out that member of Slipknot was just a big Tales from the Crypt fan? It's like, I want that mask.
Oh, that'd be amazing. And then we reach out to them, get them on the show.
So the next scene, Mary Jo is cooking something at the stovetop in the kitchen. And again, George walks in and he approaches her from behind and he gets uncomfortably close, like his body pressed against her body close. And he leans down and he smells her and he starts touching her. And she, at this point, because up to this point, whenever he would do something like that, she would like actively push him away and like try to fight against him. But at this point, she's almost ignoring him. And she just takes her whatever she's cooking. She walks over to the table as if nothing's wrong. And he follows her and he leans beside her and he starts getting really close to her. And she's just eating her food and just kind of minding her own business while he's doing his weird thing. So I wonder, did that knock over the head make her like, because at this point, from this point forward, she seems like she's always like in a dreamy state and very just kind of weird. And I didn't get that vibe from her before. So I wonder if that knock over the head kind of really did make her a little loopy, or is she just kind of playing a game to try to manipulate the ending of this episode? I wonder.
For me, it felt like she was just enamored by like, oh, there's another person here. Like, oh, it's gonna be my man. He's gonna save me, from these like two terrible couple. And even though like he was basically like groping her while she was just like doing her own thing, I feel like she was just motivated to like, I don't know, keep going, or just like not really be brought down by like the cruelty of that farm, because like she just kept thinking about her man the whole entire time. Like that's just her only motivation. Like they're gonna escape together or whatever it is, like some kind of weird Stockholm syndrome where like she's okay with George kind of being a creep to her because her faith in her man or something like that. But yeah, I did kind of notice that she was more loopy, but it could have been from the concussion, or maybe it's just like she's just that in love with the Scarecrow at the time.
Yeah, that's a good point too. She's preoccupied, right? She just constantly has her man, her sweetheart on her mind. Because later on in that scene, when she's dressing the table, she's putting the plates out and the silverware, she's singing a song. She's singing chicken pot pie, no place to go. Chicken pot pie, don't matter anyhow. I got myself a sweetheart. So that's her song that she's singing. And I wrote the song down. I made sure to write the song down word for word because I really wanted to let you guys know here. Nothing here rhymes. This is not a song. Nothing about this is a song. And she's singing it as if it's a song. She's singing it like the Jimmy Crack Corn, Jimmy Crack Corn, and I don't care. She's singing that tune, but it's chicken pot pie, no place to go. Chicken pot pie, don't matter anyhow. I got myself a sweetheart. I can't even put a tune to it. It's so like the syllables don't match. Nothing rhymes. It's not a song. She's just crazy.
She's just crazy. We're supposed to be on her side, Kenny, not against her.
Or is she really crazy? Did that bottle to the head knock something loose, or is she up to something? So that is definitely also going through my mind while I'm watching this episode. So we don't really know. So that night, we're in George and Luisa's room, and they're in bed and they're sleeping. And George is just tossing and turning, and he's having a dream of Mary Jo seductively taking off her sweater and collecting those eggs, right? When he was watching her earlier, he's getting visions of that scene. And they didn't embellish either. Like how seductive she was in his dream is exactly how seductive she was in the first place. So
it was the same exact scene.
It's the same thing, right? She was equally as seductive. This is just how I collect eggs. I take my clothes off and then I lean over things and pick them up. So he's woken up eventually, and he hears Mary Jo outside kind of singing, and he looks and he watches from outside the window, and she's out there and she's kind of dancing, and then she runs into the cornfield, and then he follows. So George follows Mary Jo out in the cornfield, and he catches up to find her kind of cuddling up and, being real close and hugging up on the scarecrow out there. And he tries to reason with her and say, hey, this is just a scarecrow. It's not a real man. But then he says, but I am. And then she runs off. So he was hoping he was hoping to redirect her attention, but it didn't work. Thank goodness it didn't work. And that's the end of that scene. So she's definitely preoccupied with this scarecrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, he's just getting more creepier. Oh, actually, in the beginning of that scene where he just woke up, I did think it was funny because he's like very timid around Luisa, and I mean she is kind of like aggressive and authoritative. So like I don't blame him, but it's just like how he creeps up to the edge of the bed and like looks back. He's like, okay, she's not awake. I can keep snooping or get out of bed and do what he wants to do.
Right. She's
It's a
definitely
little
the
funny.
authority in the relationship, and he's just kind of, he just kind of, I guess he just more or less stays out of the way, and lets Luisa kind of run the house, and he's just kind of, yeah, he's definitely more of a childish figure in the relationship. So the next day, George is driving a tractor, and he comes across Mary Jo, and she's wearing a dress, and she's all, she's dressed, she looks very pretty, and he says basically, oh, you look very, you're dressed very different today, and she says, it's for my fella. Do you think he's going to like it? And he says, look on his face again, gross. He says, yeah, I think he's going to love it. And at the same time, his hand is stroking the gear shift beside his leg. This guy's just so gross. And he's so transparently gross. Like his bodily actions like mime what his mind is thinking. He's just so gross.
Yeah, they like live in who knows where, like the middle of nowhere. And then, it looks like Luisa doesn't, well, especially in her condition, she doesn't really like, they don't really have any kind of like a sexual romance, I want to assume, because maybe he just hasn't had anything in who knows how long before Luisa hurt herself. And then with Luisa being Luisa, maybe he's just really, really, he's just a big fan, of Mary Jo. Because
Very,
like
very
how,
big fan.
if they're a very big
Inappropriately
fan
so.
of Mary Jo.
Yeah. Also, something that when when Mary Jo got hit over the head, now she's very loopy, right? And her actions, her mannerisms, her singing to herself, and just the way she talks to herself, she's very playful. She's very childlike, right? She's very adolescent.
Mhm.
And so that really exaggerates the grossness of his obsession with her. There's something that is so gross about this because not only is she held, right, originally she was held captive against her will. That made it gross enough. But now it's to the point now where it feels like, or it seems like he is like actively trying to manipulate like at least somebody who acts like a child. And that is just it's so sickening. Very, very gross episode. Anyway, Louise, I keep calling her Luisa. Mary Jo goes on to tell him that, I have a date with my man tonight at midnight. And then she walks off. And of course, George eyes her as she walks off. He takes his glasses off and is just staring at her. And Luisa notices. Luisa's off on the side and she notices. And this is another instance where you're glad Luisa's there, right? You're glad that Luisa is there to see what's going on, to hopefully do something to help. And she clutches her pitchfork that she's holding and she thrusts it into the hay. So she's definitely upset about this whole, I think she sees what's going on. So, and she does see what's going on because that night in bed, George and her are lying together and she says to him, George, you know what I'd do if I caught you cheating, don't you? Same thing to bulls when you want them to be steers. And then George is at that point just lying in bed with a terrified look on his face, just staring straight forward. But that doesn't stop George, though. He's so gross. That night, George has another dream, but this time he's actually making love with Mary Jo. So they're kind of rolling around in bed together and presume they're having sex. In his mind, they're probably having sex. But when she lays down in bed and he sees her face, it's Luisa's face. And at that point, he startles out of bed, awake, like having a nightmare. So seeing his wife's face causes him, right, to jolt awake as if he's having a nightmare. So that moment actually was a little bit funny to me as well.
Doesn't want the wife; he wants his girlfriend. Okay,
right. He wants his imaginary, right, in his mind, right, his girlfriend. So when he wakes up, he notices that the time is 1:45 midnight. So he realizes, oh boy, Mary Jo's getting ready to go, see her man. So he wants to be part of that. So he leaves. And that brings us to basically the finale of the episode, which is, Mary Jo is running off into the cornfield to go be with her man. She finally gets to the scarecrow and she starts talking to it and rubbing it and kind of kissing it and just saying, I'm here for you kind of stuff. And this is where we get the shot of the clown mask, and you see inside George's eyes, or somebody's eyes, right? It's obviously George, opens his eyes from inside the clown mask, and he reaches down and starts, grabbing her and kissing her through the mask. And this is where I realized what was going on. Oh, like this twist actually surprised me, because I was expecting something supernatural. I was expecting the scarecrow to have some sort of, life brought into it to kind of help her. But when it was George who dressed up as a scarecrow, that's where I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to get away with it by being the scarecrow. That was twist number one. I did not see that coming. Did you see that coming?
No, I did not. Not until it was revealed. It was, how it happens. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Right.
Like, where is he?
It made sense as soon as it started. I was like, oh, yeah, this is it. But I think my one track mind thought I knew what was happening. I was like, nope, she's gonna be hugging up on the scarecrow. George is gonna show up from behind, and then the scarecrow is gonna jump down and then murder George. Yeah. That's, in my mind, that's what was gonna happen. But then when we get revealed that it's George in the scarecrow outfit, I thought, oh boy, this is really gross. So that's what happened there. So they're kind of, hugging on each other. And at this point, Luisa realizes something's gone. George is gone and Mary Jo's gone. So she gets on the tractor and just drives out to the scarecrow. And at this point, George is nervous. So he gets back up on the pole and acts like he's a scarecrow again. And Mary Jo's there saying, come back. My man was here. Now he's gone. And, Luisa's not having it. She says, can't you tell? What did she say? She says, you stupid little fool. He's just a scarecrow. Can't you see that? He's just straw. I'll show you. And she grabs a pitchfork and just continuously plunges it repeatedly into the scarecrow's chest, killing her husband. He falls down to the ground. The mask falls off his face, and she sees what she's done. And before she can even really take it all in, Mary Jo's behind her, and she plunges the pitchfork into Luisa. And then from there, Mary Jo grabs the keys and dances off into the cornfield singing chicken pot pie, and I don't care, I'm free. Beautiful end to the episode. Finally, she's free. But it wasn't quite the ending that I wanted, and it wasn't the ending I was expecting. The ending that I got was it was only okay. I wanted, I don't know. What did you think before I start to ramble?
Usually for me, in like movies or shows that kind of showcase like an abductee actually gets out, I kind of root for it and get happy. So I was really happy that Mary Jo got out and she doesn't deal with that anymore. Maybe she'll be there for a couple of days getting a car going, or she'll just walk off the farm and go to the next nearby store, whenever that is. But yeah, I'm kind of glad they both died, honestly, like that. I wasn't expecting Luisa to die like that, because like you said, before she like fully process what's happening, like she just gets immediately stabbed. Like I just see the 4 prongs out of her chest, and I'm like, oh wow. Like that makes sense. You don't see Mary Jo at all. So it was a nice shot when they kind of showed how she died. Yeah, I'm glad she escaped.
Yeah, I'm glad she escaped too. I'm really glad she escaped too. And also the fact that the main character in this one, I guess she was kind of a sinner because she robbed that store. So she did have kind of a troubled past, but we never saw that. We only ever saw her being a victim. So This is really one of the only episodes where you're completely rooting for the main character the entire time, and rightfully so. It's not one of those like typical Stephen King, or not Stephen King. It's not one of those typical Tales from the Crypt episodes where the main character finally gets what he deserves. I guess in this case, she does get what she deserves, right? She deserves freedom and she finally gets it, but there's no gross twist to it or anything like that. So I guess that part was a little underwhelming as well. I wanted more grotesqueness in the ending of this. I wanted heads severed. I wanted intestines to be flying out of their stomach. I just wanted absolute mayhem in this cornfield. And what I got was a few stabs to the chest, and then he falls down, and then she gets stabbed from behind and she falls down. Like I wanted more. And this was such lackluster kills I just, the ending of, I'm telling you, the beginning of this episode had me with it. I like the characters. I like the situation. I like the whole setup. I like that maybe something supernatural is going on. Like, I was on board. And then the ending was just so drab to me. I did not like it. And I was really craving something so much more from this episode. So that's kind of where my gripes with this episode really, really escalate are the ending. So that brings us back to the Crypt Keeper. He's just basically, delivering more puns. He says that young lady certainly knew how to make her point. But what a shame for poor George and Luisa. They thought they had their labor problems all sewed up. But Mary Jo formed her own union with the Scarecrow. Did she, though?
I think she did.
Yeah.
The Scarecrow saved her.
Yeah, that's another thing, too, is I thought that the Scarecrow would become an ally by the end, but it ended up being almost like a Trojan horse for George. Yeah. And then that backfired on George. So that was weird. It was a weird episode.
I'll give it to George. As creepy as he is, like, it's actually not a bad plan. Dressing up as a Scarecrow, he might have actually got away with it.
Yeah, for how much of a simpleton George is, it wasn't a bad plan.
It wasn't a bad plan.
He would have got away with it too if it wasn't for Luisa and that tractor.
I do like that segment. He just stiffens up. He's like, no, come back. I believed it was supernatural at that point. It was like the Pinocchio thing. Like, oh my God, you are real. You are real. And then, because I started believing with him, like, oh my God, he is real. He is real. The Scarecrow is real. And like, oh, just George.
Yeah.
You got me there.
I definitely was looking forward to something supernatural in that and have the Scarecrow just, come in and just absolutely slaughter everybody. That would have been an interesting twist. Imagine this. Okay, I'm going to rewrite the story right now. The Scarecrow does come to life. It slaughters George and slaughters Luisa in the most grotesque way. So we get that carnage. We get that horror. Then, here's the twist. You ready for this? The Scarecrow falls in love with Mary Jo and forces itself onto her in a similar way that George was doing. Wouldn't that just be a nasty, gross episode?
And then she gets hit over again with a bottle. Then she finds another Scarecrow. And then becomes like a weird cyclical.
Right. Or how about this? The Scarecrow comes to life, slaughters George and Luisa, right? And then saves, Mary Jo. And the two get ready to make love passionately. But then Luisa wakes up after having been hit over the head with a bottle. And she's still back in the barn milking the cow.
Oh, Mary Jo, not Luisa, right?
Is that what I said? Did I say that wrong?
You said Luisa. You said
the
other character.
Okay. Imagine I said everything correctly.
Okay, yeah.
Imagine I said what I meant. Yeah, that would be a gut turner, right? The Scarecrow comes back to life, slaughters everybody. She's saved, but then just as they get ready to make love, Mary Jo wakes up back in the barn. That would be a really that would have been a good twist. I would have liked that better.
I think another twist I would have liked to see is that with all three of them there somehow, like maybe it's George and Luisa on the tractor somehow, even though it's like maybe a one-person driver. And they find her in the Scarecrow, and the Scarecrow does come to life and all that. And they have like all this realization that, he's a real Scarecrow. And the Scarecrow just kills Mary Jo. I want to see like how that would turn, like at that point, what happens next? Like, I don't know, just kill the most innocent person.
Right. Oh, that'd be interesting.
And then make like a slasher. And then maybe they have like a whole Jason sequence where they run to the house and they're being chased by the crazed, like supernatural maniac being, and then they have a whole, back and forth fight sequence. I don't know.
I think
that'll be another. Yeah.
I just got another vision. Like she goes out to Mary Jo goes out to the Scarecrow. The Scarecrow does wake up. It is alive. But then before George and Luisa can get there, the Scarecrow kills her. And when they get there, they're like, oh, we should have warned her. That thing's here to protect the land. It doesn't want anybody here except for us. Like, that would have been an interesting twist.
That would be kind of funny.
Oh, man, we just came up with like 2 or 3 better plots than what we got.
But it has to make sense with the title. It has to be a 4-sided triangle.
A four-sided triangle, yeah, because it was like a love affair going on. When I hear four-sided triangle, I think of like love triangle kind of things, but a love triangle with one more person, like a four-sided love triangle. So, as far as the episode and how it kind of reminds me of other things, we already mentioned Clown in the Cornfield, and it reminded me of that, even though that came out way later, just because you have clowns in a cornfield. It also reminded me, I got Misery vibes. Have you seen Misery?
I have. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I read the book.
Great movie. I love, and a great book as well. I love both of them. But when we got introduced to George and he gave off those Stephen King vibes, it got me thinking about Stephen King. Okay, so I was already thinking Stephen King. Mm-hmm. Then in that one scene where George is talking to Mary Jo on the tractor, and she goes walking off, and then he watches her walk off, and then you see that shot of Luisa holding the pitchfork. She looked like Annie Wilkes. She looked like the Kathy Bates character with that same hairdo, with the same farm girl outfit. And I just thought, oh my God, Misery. Like the way they're holding that woman against her will there, captive. Obviously, Paul Sheldon was held captive. And I just really, and they're like in the secluded farm, and Paul Sheldon was held on that secluded farm as well. Like a lot of the elements in this episode rhymed with what was going on in Misery. So I definitely saw those parallels. So that was really interesting to me. So I couldn't help but just see that. So I just wanted to say it. I don't think it's similar enough to warrant much more than just talking about the parallels. I don't think it's what they were going for. It's not a crazed fan. No. But no, it was an unhealthy obsession as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so George had an unhealthy obsession with her, just like Annie Wilkes had an unhealthy obsession with Paul Sheldon. No, they are similar. It's the same damn story.
Yeah, it just needed the scene where breaks the ankles.
Right? If there could have been one more scene of just chopping feet off or breaking ankles, that would have been great. All right, so any final thoughts about the episode before we go to scoring that you want to mention?
Let me think. I just want to make a shout out to that one scene where it was initially when she gets a concussion, and then she like flees the barn, and both the farmers were looking for her, and George was telling Luisa like, just remember, if she wakes up, don't believe what she has to say, because it's not going to be true, it's not going to make sense. And then Luisa's like, why would she? Is there something she would say that's concerning? And he's like, I don't know, just how it's gonna be. And then she just wakes up talking about like some scarecrow and being her man. It's like, oh, that's a good save for him. Yeah, like he doesn't get thrown off as a predator to Luisa yet.
Yeah, there are a few moments like that where George like gets lucky, and like just things work out for his favor. So yeah, that is interesting. I'm glad you brought that up too. So as far as scoring, I'm gonna go with. It's not a great episode. It's not something that I would really want to watch again and again or really show people. But it's decent. It held my attention. It had a fun intro and it was good enough. The ending really was bad though. I didn't like the ending very much. I'm gonna go with 3 1/4. I'm gonna go with 3.25 piggyback rides.
Oh, you like the piggyback rides?
It was a good moment to me.
I definitely like this episode more than the Lover Come Hack to Me. So I think because apparently he did do 3 episodes, so I'm excited for the third one, starring Brad Pitt. Apparently it's a season 2 episode as well. So,
you're talking about Tom Holland?
So that's right. We'll get his third.
Okay, yeah, because you brought that up before the stream. So Tom Holland directed 3 episodes. He directed Lover Come Hack to Me. Did not like that episode at all. Okay, I'd rather watch this one over Lover Come Hack to Me. He directed this one, and then what was the other one he directed?
It's called The Trap.
The Trap. Okay.
It's called, yeah. So I'm not sure.
I assume it's also a love story.
I didn't look into it because all I know is it had Brad Pitt, and I had been wanting to watch more of the episodes that had more of the movie stars.
Okay.
Just because I want to see what they're into.
I assume that there's going to be some sort of a love story in there or some sort of something, because you don't get your hands on Brad Pitt, put him in an episode, and then not use his good looks.
young Brad Pitt too, like 90s Brad Pitt. Yeah.
So what's your score?
My score will be 3.6. Because I'm not sure if I gave
3.6.
it, because I think I might have gave it a 3 or 3.5 for Lovecraft Me, or maybe a little bit lower. I just want to make sure that the 0.6 guarantees it's higher than what it
Oh,
was.
I can actually pull that up right now. Let me pull that up.
3.6 eggs.
Eggs?
That's how many eggs she got. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how many eggs she got.
Seductive eggs.
Let's see here. Lover Come Hack to Me was last season. I gave that the lowest score of the season, a 1.5. You gave it a 2.5. Also your lowest score of the season.
Oh, that's fine. I'll stick with my 3.6. That's a fair.
So mine's a full 2 points higher than Lover Come Hack to Me. If this had a 2.5 minute orgasm scene, it would have been that much lower. But the the less reliance on gratuitous sex scenes saved it, I think.
Yeah, I think he's getting better. He's mastering his craft.
He's mastering his craft.
Third time's a charm, you know. Maybe we'll give it like a 4 for this next one. I'm excited.
So 3.25 for me, 3.6 for you, for an average of 3.43. And that puts it not the lowest ranking in the season so far, because we are, oh my gosh, we're episode 9, which is halfway through the season. So we've officially finished half of season 2, and so far the lowest ranking on season 2 is The Sacrifice, which has an average score of 2.05. I gave it a 1. That was my definite bottom. You gave it a 3.1. So it has an average of 2.05.
The Sacrifice. Yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. The Sacrifices.
Yeah, I couldn't get behind that one. So so before we go, I do want to mention some very big deal correspondences. Godden, we got these very, very big deal correspondences over this last week. We got a comment on one of our videos. It was Three's a Crowd was the episode. We got a comment from the Ghost Crusaders, which is the Creeps of the Crypt podcast. It's the Creeps of the Crypt podcast that I've been shouting out on this podcast. Yeah. So like I said, after I finish up recording this episode with you, I'll go and I'll listen to their podcast so I can hear their perspective. I'm always interested in hearing other people's perspectives. So they actually left a comment about Three's a Crowd saying this is actually one of their favorite episodes. So I was thrilled to get the comment from them. If you guys are listening to this episode, hey, welcome aboard. Glad to have you here. After this episode, I'm gonna go listen to Four-Sided Triangle from your guys' podcast. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Thank you very much for the comment. I appreciate being heard by you. It's very surreal knowing that the tables turn, right? Knowing that you're listening to us is a very surreal thing for me to kind of wrap my head around. Also, I got an amazing, I had an amazing conversation with a fan of Cryptique podcast. I was doing my stream yesterday, streaming Final Fantasy 3, and Carter Solo. If you're out there, here's your shout out, buddy. Through YouTube, Carter Solo was just chatting with me, and he mentioned that he had, gone through all the Cryptique podcast episodes. So thank you so much for coming through. I really appreciate you having you on board. Thanks a lot for coming through to my streams. And if anybody else out there is listening and you want to have a conversation, you want to just chat, come through and do my streams. I stream every Saturday. We don't have to talk about the game I'm playing. If you want to pop in and say, "Hey, I love that episode on whatever," or "I love your movie review on whatever," come through and chat. I love it. It makes me feel so good to know people are out there and actually, interested in what I have to say. It means so much to me. So please continue doing that. I loved chatting with you, Carter. That was a lot of fun for me. And I know that I ramble a lot sometimes, but I know I'm going to speak on Godden's behalf. Godden will appreciate it too. Godden, we've got to get you to start streaming again. You haven't streamed in a good few months.
It's been like more than that, yeah.
It hasn't been years. It hasn't been years.
No, it hasn't been years, but it's getting close to a year, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my God. We got to get you back on board. I'm telling you, Godden is one of the best cozy streamers. If you want to just relax and just chill out, throw a Godden stream up and just have him go for it. Because he's a lot of just super, super casual, super, super laid back and relaxed. Even if you're playing a stressful game, because when you're doing Silent Hill, which is that horror game, you're just like, oh, I wonder what's over here. Totally cozy, chill vibes. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Thank you so much, Kenny.
All right, I want to keep going with the shout out. So I already talked about Creeps of the Crypt podcast. If you're interested in somebody else's perspective on these Tales from the Crypt episodes, there's also the Crypt Keepers podcast. They do a lot more research than anybody that I know who does Tales from the Crypt podcast. They review the show and they review the comic that it came from. So they'll review both and they'll compare them and talk about the similarities and the differences. So they actually do a lot of legwork before they start to record their episode. They do a lot of work, more than I'm willing to do. I'm sorry. Okay. Don't forget about Haddonfield Radio. They basically do commentaries of some of my favorite horror franchises. We're talking Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and right now I'm going through Friday the 13th. So yeah, they'll do commentaries of the entire movie. A lot of fun to listen to them too. And I can't help but mention Teach Her Amma, my dear friend John. His girlfriend is on a podcast where she watches Futurama for the very first time, and then her brothers basically, you know, host the podcast with her, and they talk about the episodes as they go through them. So that's another fun podcast to check out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boils and ghouls. Next week, we're going to be here, same time, same place, to talk about season 2, episode 10, The Ventriloquist's Dummy.
Oh, I'm excited. I don't think I've seen this at all, so
Yeah.
I wonder what's waiting for me.
Yeah.
Episode, so.
I remember the punchline. I remember the twist at the end. That's the one thing I do remember. I don't really remember much specific, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it all unfolds. Well, with that all said, with that all out of the way, have a good week, everybody. We'll see you next Friday, is when I release these, by the way. We record on Sunday, and then we release on Fridays. So the days get all mixed up for me. So we'll see you next Friday. And Godden, I'll see you next Sunday.
I'll see you next Sunday. Yes, Kenny.
All right.
Unless I fly in.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Well, how was that for a scream, boys and ghouls?